Holographic Tattoo, Part 1 by Denise Michel, Chapter 2. 30 minutes later, at the clinic, in the car, I feel myself moving in slow motion. My senses feel magnified. The doctor in me tries to remain present and aware of this familiar barrage of symptoms. From that perspective, I feel reverence for this experience of my body's innate wisdom. From my perspective as a patient, I feel terrified and confused. I notice the tremor in my left hand and cannot move my right arm. Then, I push the passenger door open with my left arm. I whisper to Amber, "Too weak to stand." I slump in the seat. The car door remains ajar. Panic-stricken, Amber hurries into the clinic. We were 25 minutes late. Here they come with a wheelchair. I don't want to go in a wheelchair. The tone that sets. I'm too young for this to happen. I'm wheeled to a treatment room and gently assisted onto a treatment table. Amber checks me in at the front desk and enters the treatment room. She says to me, I need blonde hair. Okay. She says to me, "They called 911. She and I exchange concerned glances. There's a slight pause. Amber's eyes are wide. I close mine. I hold out my right hand, but it doesn't go where I intend it to go. Come on, hand. Go where I tell you to go. Okay. Focus. This has happened before. I can use my left hand to guide my right hand. I say, my bag. The oils. Clove and trauma life. After a year and a half of trial and error using holistic modalities as palliative care, I'd found a consistent, temporary remedy for these events. I'd narrowed my essential oils down to the 2 that worked well repeatedly. I chose clove primarily for its blood-thinning and antioxidant properties. I incorporated helichrysum because it aligns with my cultural background, is traditionally used as an adaptogen for blood and lipids, helps support the nervous system, and has anti-inflammatory properties. This combination of oils temporarily alleviated symptoms for 2 events earlier this week, and those events had even more intense symptoms. I decided to continue to use what worked in my experience, but we'd run out of helichrysum. I worked with the resources we had and used a blend that contained helichrysum. Amber asks how many drops of each essential oil I need, and expertly allows drops to fall onto the palm of my hand. I slowly rub my hands together, still unable to feel my right hand. Then my left hand guides the scented palms near my face. I inhale deeply and slowly through my nose and mouth. I stop inhaling as soon as I feel a sharp pain in my abdomen. Instinctively, I sense that I'll be okay. Within a few moments, I'm able to speak in sentences. I am grateful and hope that someone will identify these root causes. So this is the commentary for chapter 2. First, I just want to say, I mentioned I didn't want to be in a wheelchair, so the wheelchair comment. I was an athlete, and it was really difficult for me to lose function because I was losing almost my identity as an athlete, as a chiropractor, practicing physical activity. Now I realize how fortunate I've been to have full functionality of my body, my limbs, most of my life, and to have lost and regained function is a tremendous blessing. And any other being might also be able to regain function. I don't know, but I think it's worth a try. The second point, that it took me trial and error to figure out, to break it down to 2 essential oils that worked for me. And by trial and error, I mean, when I made a mistake, it took at least 2 weeks for me to recover, and I was in a lot of pain. Plus, if I made a mistake, it was life-threatening. I wasn't taking medication, and I mentioned this later in the book because I was not responding well to medications, and I go into some detail with the medications that we tried and what occurred. So here I was using holistic means to recover from what I thought at the time I thought, oh my gosh, I'm having strokes, but that can't possibly be. How can I possibly recover? It was almost impossible to believe that I could use essential oils and recover function from what was occurring. Just kept doing my best, but broke it down into 2 oils. Again, that trial and error was years. When I make a mistake, it's not life-threatening. So I'm regaining the ability to try new things and make mistakes and be okay with it and share it. The third thing I'd like to mention is, in the book, I say this was the 3rd event that happened that week. This 3rd event that I share in the book was the least intense of the 3. They decreased in intensity as the week went on. The first event was I was home alone and I was losing function. I could feel sharp pains moving throughout my body, and then they became lodged in my cranium, my neck, various areas throughout my body. They didn't continue to move. They became lodged, and I started to lose consciousness, and I started to lose function. I couldn't move my limbs. I became very weak. The room that I was in was beginning to fill with spirits. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm gonna croak. This is it. They're coming and take me to the light, right? And I thought, well, gosh, it was, there were beings that I recognized, my grandfather, my grandmother, Virginia, my best friend, and Kelly, another very good friend, and then there were beings that I didn't recognize, but the room was full, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? So I texted my wife at the time, Amber, and she was on her way back from teaching in Santa Fe. We only had one car, one vehicle, and I had the vehicle in case I needed to go anywhere because I couldn't walk very far, a very long distance. And she had greater functionality than I did, so she would walk about a mile to the train station. And the point is, I'm texting my wife saying, I'm having another one of these events. I'm too weak to open the oil bottles. I'm losing consciousness, and I'm getting really weak very quickly. Things were starting to fade to black, and the room was full of spirits. I left those last two things out, but I did text to her saying, I'm having an event. I'm really weak. I can't open the bottles. They're right next to me. And that I love her. Because I didn't know if I was gonna survive this event. Can you imagine what that felt like for me and for my wife? Can you imagine what that felt like for my wife? She's on the train. She has to run from the train station a mile to the house. Who knows what she's going to find? Well, I have sent those texts. Things are starting to fade to black. I'm still aware, but my breathing slowed dramatically. My senses heightened. And everything just slowed down. I felt like I was going to pass out, and yet I was still somewhat aware of things that were happening around me. I could hear sounds, and I could see spirits plain as day. They were talking to me plain as day. And they said, my grandmother and grandfather walked up to me, and they said, just relax. You're going to make it through this. Just relax. And it was hard to believe I was going to make it through that. I mean, how? It was still probably at least half an hour until Amber could make it back to the townhouse that we were renting. But I thought, well, what choice do I have? I relaxed. And not only did I survive, now I'm thriving. And this is granted, this is over 10 years later, but what a blessing. What a blessing to be able to share this with you. Let's continue with the book. There's more information. Thanks for watching my channel, and thank you for listening to me read my book to you. It means a lot to me. I really want to make a difference in the world. Take care. Have a good night.